Welcome back to the Wandering Wind Church, everyone. I am Gregory, your digital video missionary, and today we are reading out of the Life Recovery Devotional, Step 1, Day 21. The title of our reading today is Powerless and Abused, and our Bible reading is from Judges 19, verses 12 through 30. Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our dependencies and that our lives had become unmanageable. There are societal forces beyond our control. We live in times where sexual abuse is commonplace and security in relationships is hard to find. We may know the agony of being sexually abused or bear the shame of allowing someone else to be victimized when we were in a position to protect them. A deep sense of powerlessness is experienced in this kind of situation. Before Israel had a king, there was no law and order. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. A horrifying story is told of a young woman who was brutally gang victimized. Her husband had allowed her to be taken by a group of men who had been trying to attack and victimize him. He took hold of his concubine and pushed her out the door. The men of the town abused her all night. When her husband opened the door to leave, there lay his concubine with her hands on the threshold. The girl died there on the doorstep. Her death became a rallying cry for reform, but she had been lost. Her husband was left with terrible shame and guilt. The man and his young wife were both victims, suffering the pain of powerlessness in a crime-filled society. If we have been victims of sexual abuse, we must begin by acknowledging that we were powerless. Although we suffered the abuse, we were not the cause of it. This realization is an important key to our recovery. Recovery from being a victim begins by recognizing our powerlessness. I've shared this story before, but I'll share it again. I was living out on the edge of town in an apartment, well, more like a townhouse or whatever. And there was a neighbor kid that I got to know really well that was at first really nice. And I've never known a stranger and I've never known an enemy. Most of my young life I tried to be friends with everybody, even if they didn't like me. And this kid, we'll name him Jay for the sake of anonymity. He didn't like me for whatever reason. But I didn't care. I just wanted friends. I didn't have any friends, and he was the only one that let me stick around. Well, one day he tells me that he's got something for me out in the woods to show me. Me being a fool, I followed him. I mean, I know it's not my fault, but I still should have kind of. I didn't really pick up on how things might be a bit sideways. Even now, I don't always pick up on that. But it's still not my fault. But I followed him out to the woods, and he pushed me down and proceeded to victimize me. I ended up hurt, angry, and abusive towards others in ways that still shame me to this day. Because I still hold myself accountable for that, even though I paid my dues and made as many amends as I can. I can't say that I'll ever completely recover, but with God's help, I have recovered a whole lot more than I would have otherwise. My pain is not as great as some people's pain, but it is still pain, and it is still my pain. You might not have a story like mine or like these people out there that talk about how they've been sexually or physically abused, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a story worth sharing and that your pain is invalid. The one thing I've had to realize is that my pain is not invalid just because someone else's pain is greater. My suffering is not any smaller than anybody else's or any less valid or real. It might be different. It might be mine and not theirs, but it is still valid and it still happened. But that doesn't mean we have to live in that. We don't have to live in the past. And when we realize that, we can become free from being a victim by recognizing our powerlessness, but also realizing God's power to be able to help us, to be able to give us grace, to be able to give us hope, and to be able to give us healing. When we might not be able to heal ourselves, but He can heal us anyway, if we let Him. This was a harder one. I read this one earlier and I debated reading it today. But I think that there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. And just know that if you're still dealing with that, if you're still dealing with the shame and guilt, I am praying for you that one day you'll be able to be free from that. Because God freed me. God freed me, and I don't know if I fully accepted that freedom yet, but I know that He's freed me. And He can free you too, if you just let Him. Remember, we don't recover by leaps and bounds. We don't recover lightning fast, but quickly, sometimes slowly, but always moving forward towards the goal of recovery. We recover through progress, not perfection. Perfection is the lie of the devil. Perfection is a lie that he created to make us feel bad when we don't measure up. Perfection is not something that God seeks from us, but rather something God brings out in us through our faithfulness to Him and through His power in us. Thank you guys for watching and for listening. God bless you. Pray for me as I pray for you. And until next time, have a blessed evening and a blessed day. Thank you.